Hello and welcome back to Podcasting as Praxis. I'm David, my pronouns are he and him.
I'm James, my pronouns are they and them.
I'm Jamie, my pronouns are he and him.
I'm Alice. What was that funny?
Just sounds so defeated already.
I'm Alistair, my pronouns are also he and him.
I'm Matt, my pronouns are he and him.
Yes, our illustrious guest.
Yeah, that's it. Filling in for Rob, who's at a Hannah Montana concert just now, so thank you. Thank you very much.
He's going to be so mad when he hears that.
Good. This is what happens when you take 2 weeks off in a row. I don't care that he was here for the recording last week. He wasn't here for the fucking stream, and that was more important. So, get up.
Yeah, the stream was actually a good time.
Shame it never happened. And there's no evidence it ever did.
I just want to, and at the head of today's episode, thanks everyone who joined us. To the early hours, watching some absolute shitters eat shit. I think we'll save the donuts until later on in the episode.
Why is there other things worth talking about just now?
Yeah, there were a number of elections last week or this week, depending on where you draw the line.
Famously, I love elections.
Well, I do love an election where there is just reams and reams and reams of videos of fascists crying after counting down to zero. It's it just really brightens up your day, your week. Mm-hmm. So there was an election in France, and it was. So the election in France was.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good summary. It was.
Yeah, it was. It was
City.
Macron, off the back of getting whooped in the European elections earlier, well, how many? 2 months ago or whatever, 3 months ago. Decided to call the equivalent of the general election in France. And the first round, so there's 2 rounds of voting because France has a not completely insane voting system. In the first round of voting, it was not good. Le Pen's National Rally was ahead, followed by Macron's centrists, and followed by Mélenchon's NFP coalition, which is basically a collection of smaller leftist parties of varying degrees. And they were, I'm pretty sure they were in last anyway. But the second round of voting was on Sunday. And at 8 o'clock, a shock exit poll dropped showing that Mélenchon's NFP coalition was actually the largest party, a plurality victory. It was about 190 of, I think they got 577 seats, so not an outright majority, but Le Pen's National Rally in the fucking dirt with 143. Hence a bunch of crying fascists screaming and crying about
Scromiton.
Yeah.
That's right.
Trying to remember that word.
It lives with me daily.
The thing that made it so good, though, as well, was because I think in France during elections, you're not allowed to have, they're not allowed to do publish polls. So they assumed that they would win because of the first round of voting. And it was a massive shock, which I think is, I think that's something that we should really do that as well. We should have, basically the pollsters in this country got it badly wrong. Again, no one's really talking about it. But it does definitely influence people and how they vote, and obviously influences the narrative around the election. And I thought it was really interesting that, that was basically a kind of perfect example of people's vote not being influenced by the polls or by the narrative.
Yeah, we should ban pollsters, if only because it will make Ashcroft sad.
I mean, even if we did well, I mean the liberal reaction to the exit poll, and the actual results of the election, as in the liberals in this country, not the liberals in France, because we what we like to do on this podcast is as ever air our beefs, and our beefs are chiefly with liberals in this country, although Macron can eat shit as well. So as
a liberal of Jupiterian stature, he does extend over here, unfortunately. So he also faces the wrath.
I do have one of my points in the notes is laughter at Macron, the mighty Jovian Adonis. So I'm glad we got that out of the way early. But Macron basically called this election, figuring the left would be divided, and thus it would be the contest that every liberal ever wants to have, which is centrism versus fascism, and
a shooting every time.
It has never in history gone wrong, and our resident liberals have been rightfully, some might say, not me personally, rightfully saying that it has been a masterful gambit, and he has successfully seen off the far right by losing.
I love a masterful gambit. They're always good.
We do. I mean, just to pick one example, because I love laughing at how utterly useless the media class in this country is. Emily Maitlis, esteemed journalist, I think formerly of Newsnight. I can't remember if she still actually works there. The Macron
she's
move
a podcaster now.
Yeah,
God,
I wouldn't call Newsnight work anyway.
No, much less podcasting.
Somebody else photoshops the hats onto Corbyn. She's just the face of the show,
So on the 10th of June, Emily Maitlis tweeted, the Macron move was explained to me like this. It's not about how, it's about 2027. If he takes a gamble now, then even if the unthinkable happens, Jordan Bardella, the National Rally candidate for Prime Minister, the National Rally is exposed as a party that cannot govern, doesn't have serious tested politics, and is no longer credible. It may not pay off, but it's Macron's gamble to keep the far right away from the Élysée Palace. In 2027, when he goes, by exposing them as a party with sham ideas and empty policies now.
Yep.
So let them win, give them a run at power, give them power, in order for them to lose.
Everyone's going to think this Hitler guy is fucking useless as Chancellor.
Unbelievable.
It is truly just another test case of the proven theory that liberals cannot learn anything. After the exit poll came out, Maitlis also subsequently went on to say that effectively that of course the Macronist Prime Minister would stay a few hours before he resigned. So we've got some laughter at the Jovian Adonis that is Macron out of the way, but we need to give him his due. He is right now sitting like the thinker, just contemplating what went wrong in this election, or what indeed went right. So there was a small piece in Politico that I just wanted to read out some paragraphs to you. Lounging with Emmanuel Macron in the lavish stateroom aboard France's Air Force One, I asked the French president who he confides in, with whom does he share his deepest feelings when the burden of office weighs him down. At first, he didn't seem to understand my question. To help him out, I suggested perhaps his wife and former high school drama teacher, Bridget. His media advisor sitting across from us loved this idea and eagerly encouraged him to endorse it. Instead, Macron responded rather dismissively. Another long pause and much rumination, he finally hit upon the answer. Myself, he said.
Didn't he say, my thoughts are too complex for journalists, which, to be fair, critical support for that. I think if he's going to dunk on journalists, that's really good. He is a very weird guy. I don't know whether it's a cultural thing or whether it's a language barrier thing, but I always find it comes across like quite an unusual bloke. And I found that liberals who are I think they're very shallow generally about politicians. He's kind of a weird guy. I don't know. I find it strange that they've latched onto him. I think that it's not quite right.
I mean, imagine anyone you went to school with who would marry a teacher. Also, I just want to say as well, never mind his thoughts. Sooty and Sweep's thoughts are too complicated for journalists.
I do like the fucking full on. I am just an island and an unknowable fucking creature that couldn't possibly be fathomed by the mortal man.
I do also want to add that there is just this really concerning habit of liberals getting really horny for these otherwise unremarkable characters. I'm included, so I'm equivalent, drawing quite a lot of equivalence between Macron and Starmer, which I think is pretty fair. And because there was that. I dared not read it. That article by I think it was Caitlin Moran about how Keir Starmer makes her feel a certain way, and
you better pray that your notes fill the runtime, by the way, because that's the backup.
That is a sword of Damocles if I've ever heard one.
That article as well, relentlessly fucking grim. Like, imagine if like fucking Toby Young or some cunt had written that about like a female MP. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, my mate left the group chat, didn't say why, but we all knew they were off to fucking wank. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, fuck off.
Yeah.
British journalists just be normal for once. Do you know what I mean? See how it feels. You might like it.
Je suis fatigué de la terre, c'est Jean.
It is not possible for British journalists to be normal about anything. I mean, I'm reminded of there was one of I think it was the BBC's like live blog section on the French election. So the results on Sunday for the French election. There was one entry that read, "The far right's rise will have to wait."
Will it now?
just the subtext of disappointment in that sentence, and writ large, essentially of
it was their moment of glory or something, wasn't it? Would have to.
Yeah, wait. It's like, oh yes, we will finally get to see what these people will do with power, and not being utterly mortified and terrified, but just disappointed that it didn't go their way this time.
BBC breaking, Ubermensch will have to wait.
We've got Ubermensch back home.
Ubermensch.
Ubermensch. Fuck off, Jamie. Of course. Not to be outdone. Keir Starmer did say that he would work with Le Pen.
Yeah, gutted for him, frankly. I mean, he was looking forward to it, and now it's just snatched out of his hands.
I don't think he's even congratulated Mélenchon yet, has he?
No, he hasn't.
As of writing, as of recording, I suppose. No, he has not congratulated Mélenchon on seeing off the far right.
Couldn't wait to work with Le Pen on the boats. Absolutely gutted. He's going to have to actually come up with something a bit more, humane, I think, now, and that's to his detriment. It's amazing, really. I think with the Liberals, it's always about the election campaigns and the clever messaging and the one cool trick that sees off the far right in an election again and again and again. But actually, the thing that's going to see them off is actually changing things fundamentally, structurally in our economy, this is the kind of analysis that's been missing from the media. Obviously, they don't see it in that way, and thankfully now with the administration we're going to have in France, that might actually happen. But it will be this kind of meteoric rise that the narrative about the far right, that eventually it will be their time, and this one trajectory. That probably won't happen now if this administration can execute its plan. So that's obviously really welcome, and will have ramifications here too.
There's still time for us to invade.
Also,
well, you're not.
We'll see what happens. The French can try and, like, you know, fend off the rise of the far right with policy and, like, positive change for the citizens, and Keir Starmer can do, like, a really radical kickflip, and we'll see which one works out better.
Also, to be totally honest, there's a big if there, because this kind of presumes that the Liberals are going to work with, you know, the left now, which press X about.
I'm fully expecting, like, fucking Pindick to side with the fucking Nazis rather than the left, like.
I think the most likely one is that they're going to go ahead with the plan they had, which was, let them rule, but keep fucking it up. And like every time the left say, we're going to do positive thing, the Liberals will step in and go, no, you can't do that, expecting that to then reflect well on them when they get punished for it in the next election. So I look forward to the plan that they had that would definitely have worked against the fascists, definitely working against the left.
The small thing the main thing that sort of is a difference in terms of like the legislature in France and the UK is if you have an NFP prime minister, you can govern by decree if you're a minority government. So it wouldn't just be having to work with Macron and his lot. They could do at least some of their policy platform by decree, which, by the way, the policy platform has terrified the usual suspects. With things like rolling back retirement ages from 64 to 60, increasing the national minimum wage by, I think it's about 10% to €1,600 a month, which is fucking insane. Among other things like that.
I can't wait to hear at length about how they're the real fascists to them when they start doing things by decree.
Oh, yeah, I mean, like, fucking Macron loved doing stuff by decree because.
Yeah, but he was sensible, though.
Yeah, he would simply increase the retirement age and have the completely insanely cool, by the way, riots that happened as a result of that.
Yeah. More French firefighters should take British holidays. We should increase tourism for that specific sector.
Yeah.
It is. I think it's okay to savor moments like this where, although it's not a crushing victory, as I think we would all would have preferred to see. It is still, it is an inarguable victory for the left, despite what Emily Maitlis said in the immediate wake of things. So yeah, I think we take this, and I think at this point we can sort of move on to our main topic for the evening. Already, yes, article, it is. Don't you? We can talk about every single member of the cabinet that's been appointed to save us from that fucking article. So yes, there was. If for some reason you are not aware and you listen to this podcast, there was in fact an election in the UK on Thursday, and
you'd be forgiven for not noticing, though, because, like, you know what I mean.
Depending on your seat, yeah.
If you're in Scotland, you would genuinely be forgiven for not fucking noticing.
Oh shit! I forgot to vote.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it was. I think a lot of stuff, mostly what people expected, but with the details being a lot more interesting. I think anyone kind of anticipated, as Matt, you alluded to earlier, like the polling was kind of all over the place. A Labour majority was a kind of fait accompli at this point, although given the results, perhaps not as cast iron as we might have all been led to believe. I mean, so to get us started, the results from the election are Labour on landslide majority, 412 seats. Tories dead on, I think it's around 120. Lib Dems on 70 odd. SNP dead, less than 10. And some other interesting seats.
Yeah. I think what was really interesting was obviously they got that majority on a much lower share of the vote than we managed in 2017, about 7% less than what we got in 2017, and fewer overall number of votes than we got in 2019. The great repudiation of Corbynism. Corbyn, obviously we were told off the back of that Corbyn had nothing to say to the country. His acolytes lived in a different world. Clearly that's not the case, because he managed to get more votes in 2019 than Keir Starmer managed. And there's been a lot of kind of, I think, retrofitting and explanation for that from
the old electoral efficiency.
Yeah, I think it's been it's kind of irritating. I wrote a little bit about it today for Navarra, but it's just very irritating to hear them kind of say essentially that they wanted to get less votes, which is complete nonsense. Obviously, I mean, at the end of the day, right? Did they plan? Was their strategy for Wes Streeting to basically nearly lose his seat? Did they think Corbyn would win? Absolutely not. So they massively underestimated the left. I think that's the lesson for them. And now the Green Party's in second place in 47 Labour seats.
Yeah, I think on the note of the expectation for Jeremy Corbyn's seat, I got a little I think this is from the Spectator, but I can't remember exactly actually at this point. But the exit goes, little could dampen the celebrations among Labour staff as the general election results confirming Keir Starmer as Prime Minister continued to roll in during the early hours last Friday. But as those gathered at the party's election at the Tate Modern heard the result from Islington North, where Jeremy Corbyn was re-elected as MP, the room fell into a stunned silence. We also had the man himself, He Larpin, being extremely not mad that Jeremy Corbyn had been re-elected with, by the way, a inarguable thumping majority in that seat.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think he did. He got more votes in Islington this time around than Keir Starmer got in his seat. So much to ponder with that one.
Yeah, there was a few Labour MPs who trended downwards, wasn't it? It's like you know what I mean? Their vote share had gone up drastically in 2017 and 2019, and then fell sharply this time around. And I wonder what that's about.
So there was kind of a lot of stuff going on, and Matt, your article on Novara was, kind of touched on the same thing. Also, I just want to add at this point, electoral efficiency, a fucking made-up term. I'm stamping my claim on this, made up for this election, just like
electoral efficiency is how you win the Red Wall. Yeah.
Yeah, the Red Wall was fucking made up for the 2017 election, whose, by the way, the Wikipedia page for which didn't exist prior to the 16th of the 12th, 2019. Which I thought was grimly amusing.
Is there a page for electoral efficiency yet?
There probably will be. Some fucking neek in Labour HQ is going to be sitting down and explaining why this is actually the most important aspects of any election in a first past the post system.
Yeah, the theory about voter efficiency under first past the post, which I think is a contradiction in terms anyway, because first past the post is extremely inefficient as a system. But the theory, the Blairite theory, obviously, that you sacrifice some votes of progressives in inner cities, and I think minorities, where you're piling up votes in seats in London, for example, for socially conservatives in Tory Labour marginals in the towns and the suburbs. The theory of that's basically what informs Blairite electoral strategy, but it's also a convenient kind of veneer for their politics, which is the things that they actually believe in, because they want to do more right-wing things, and this is their justification for doing it.
They want to be the American Democrats. That's what they want to be, and that including the what is it, that line, for every vote we lose in the city centres, we pick up 2 in from rural Republicans or whatever.
Yeah,
but
this idea that that this result is what Labour Party wanted. It absolutely, obviously wasn't. I mean, they thought they were going to get 40% of the share of the vote. They didn't think that they would turn Ilford North, West Streeting's seat into a marginal. They just completely underestimated the left. They underestimated the Greens. Obviously, the Greens won Thangham Debonair's seat. So I think that without the Tory vote collapsing as substantively as it did, and obviously Reform taking a lot of their votes, which obviously didn't happen in 2019 because they withdrew from a lot of seats, then this strategy, so-called, would not have worked. So this idea of applying agency to Morgan McSweeney and the Labour strategists, which is what the stenographers in the press lobby like to do, I think that that's pretty wide of the mark. I mean, if you look at the numbers as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just goes to show, like, these people do not have a politics that inspires fucking anyone. I mean, like, that we had all of the so-called big beasts of the Labour right down in Jeremy Corbyn's seat in Islington North, and on the ground, knocking on doors for the fucking nobody private healthcare cunt that was standing for Labour. Like, no normal person believes in these people. And by the way, like, the takes from the media class about what would happen in Islington North were quite wide of the mark. And David, could you play the Rachel Cunliffe clip, please?
Let's go.
I have always found the argument that Jeremy Corbyn is such a prominent local figure that he would be able to mount a strong independent campaign. That has never really chimed with my experience living in the constituency. He certainly wasn't particularly active in the time that I was there.
In the fucking dirt.
Fucking hell. What is that? That's unbelievable. Everyone knows him. You just have to, honestly, just follow him around for a few minutes in the constituency and everyone knows him. I mean, I know this is before he was leader, before he had that recognition. That's an unbelievable take. He's probably helped most people in that constituency in one way or another, or someone knows someone that he's helped. That's crazy. But still, they had to. I think James Schneider, who was the spokesperson for Jeremy after me when he was leader, he ran the campaign in Islington North. He did a fantastic job because they had no data, obviously, and they had to basically spin it up in a few weeks. But he has such strong local support that it was always going to be close. And this idea that that there's not support for A, Jeremy Corbyn, and B, for the left, is something that the Blairites have massively underestimated. The left is, Corbynism was a manifestation of that when he was leader of the Labour Party. They dismissed it as not being a real thing. It is absolutely a real thing, and there's demand for that type of politics.
I mean, you think there was a massive campaign on the ground, activists from far and wide coming in on their own dime to do the fucking hard work of knocking on, tens of thousands of constituency doors. It's
all right, Jess Phillips.
Yeah, and then they all sit down afterwards and have a nice big glass of council pop.
But these guys, these Labour right figures. I mean, Mandelson. I've watched the clip of Mandelson on the Times Radio a few times just for amusement, particularly in hindsight. It's very, very amusing where he sort of says, "I was in Islington North. I was knocking on doors." And Matt Chorley says, what did people say to you? And they see Peter Mandelson on the door. He say, "Oh, don't I know you from the telly?" And then he claimed, I knocked on many doors. There's a huge amount of support for Praful Nagrund.
He has to look down at his notes to remember the guy's fucking name.
Yeah, so they just create these I don't know, they just create these images in their head of how important they are, how self-important they are, and they apply it to people that no one's ever heard of. This guy, who was he? A private healthcare lobbyist, or a private healthcare practitioner. I don't know where they found him. I don't know where they find these candidates. To be honest, it's crazy.
Well, they're all grown in the same fucking vat in like a former Labour student like HQ somewhere, and and then they just get turned out, and this obviously is what motivated the 4-year media jihad against Jeremy Corbyn, because they had all these guys just building up in buildings across the country, and they didn't know what to fucking do with them.
Yeah, it's the Xerox problem, but the original copy's Wes Streeton.
The number one job of the new Labour intake, I think, was lobbyist. So public affairs. Yeah, nothing to do with being connected to the community or having a relevant role or having any kind of expertise. Just a hack who tries to get policy change in Westminster for corporate clients. Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that the shock defeat of John Ashworth, when that came in, when we were doing our stream, we were all, I think, fair to say, fucking shocked. None of us anticipated anything like that. As we said, Wesley himself coming within 500 votes of losing, and Jess Phillips as well, down to 700 vote majority. And it brings me no end of joy that she has had a worse election this year in 2024 than she did in 2019. After she had, we had her grinning after the very grim result that year.
Yeah, I think this is the paradox, isn't it, for lots of these figures, these Labour figures. It's going to be more difficult for them next time, because now it's clear that their opponent can win, and they'll be able to. They obviously have more data next time around. They'll be able to mount a very credible challenge for the seat. So I think they're in trouble if they don't accommodate the left. Now that's the choice that Starmer will have. He'll have to either try to accommodate the left or make concessions to the left to some degree to see off the Green/independent threat in these seats, or he'll think, well, we've won in places we've not won before. All of these people are retired Tory voters. We're gonna just try and keep them on side, be their kind of red wall. If that happens, which I think is more likely, it's more likely they go the kind of placate reform direction, then that just creates a big space for the left. So I think either way, I'm pretty optimistic about the next few years.
I mean, it's not. Yeah. I definitely don't think it's out of keeping with the Labour right to just to follow their political instincts and just chase reform in spite of. And I mean, the Greens won 4 seats. That is 3 more seats than they have ever had in their history. But not just that. They came second in 40 other seats.
Yeah,
that is
just to expand quickly on your point there, Matt, as well. The other thing is that they're going to perceive this as a temporal problem, because they've already decided to classify every single independent going against them as a pro-Palestine candidate. And the Labour right, especially the format and size of the Labour right these days, is quite content and willing for there not to be a Palestine within the next 5 years. So I reckon they'll happily just wait out the problem as they see it, and it'll all return to the status quo of sensible management by then.
I do actually want to talk about that briefly, because obviously many Muslims and Muslim communities are going to be upset with the Labour rights tack with everything, all the heinous crimes that are happening in Gaza. But not just Muslims, any reasonable right-thinking person, whether you're you're following politics closely or not, can easily look at what's happening there and go, that seems a bit much. Even the most attached person, right? And this is, emblematic of just the rank racism of these hacks who have no interest in trying to attack anything left of, even Gordon Brown, right, is just completely outside of their knowledge base, their instincts to do anything like that. And and you know the Greens in 40 are second in 40 seats, and like you say, this is essentially just giving 40 seats of potential problems in 2029 or 2028, whenever the next election is. Just utterly short-sighted in I'm not surprised. Like this is the MO of these people.
So this is why I urged people a while ago to join the Greens, because I know they're not perfect, but neither's the Labour Party. So people were quite happy to get behind the Labour Party, and the Greens are, I think, my experience, they've been extremely welcoming, and they're very aligned in, I'd say, the key fundamental policy areas. They're aligned on foreign policy, on Gaza. Obviously, I'd like them to go a bit further on foreign policy, but as I say, no party's perfect. But I actually think it's really important that the left coalesces around the party. And I know you made that point about independence, and obviously it's up to people what they want to do. But if the Green Party is seen as the left alternative to Starmer, having vacated that space, that will in turn, I think, create an opportunity for the Greens, and it will put pressure on Labour, which I think has always been the point under first past the post, to pressure them externally.
I think realistically, for the next election round, the Greens can do everyone a lot of favours if they check out the independents in the area and maybe choose not to stand in certain seats if they're independent, because some of those independents fucking smash the Greens, and in those situations, give it to the fucking independent, because like I say, the Greens are about fucking 40 odd seats second place. Fuck it, absolutely work with them. We can see in fucking France this shit works. Like, if you do a fucking big grand coalition of the left, things can actually happen. It's when you start involving libs that it falls apart.
Andrew Feinstein, MP for Holborn and St Pancras in 2029. What a sight that would be. I mean, and in as much as electoralism is the route to progressive politics being enacted in first past the post system, I do also want to add, don't fucking tactically vote. If you do want to vote green, vote green. Don't. I think it is so much of the problems that we have when we're trying to bring in anything to the left of what is presently possible is focused on what is happening in this election. So, now that there's, again, these 40 seats that the Greens are second in, that could turn into any number of actual wins. And in that election, if you're in a seat that's, forgiving all the independents who might make a decent alternative to a Green vote, for example, it's setting that seat that you would otherwise have tactically voted in up for the next election, where you can knock out both shitheads, whether it's Labour, Tories, or fucking Reform, given that they also won 5 seats, unfortunately. So yeah, don't tactically vote. Vote for what you think is the best candidate, ultimately.
Yeah, that's the real problem with, obviously, first past the post. It's a terrible system, and what it does is I think it encourages people, or maybe you might even argue forces people to choose between voting the existing government out or voting for a type of government that they want. And that should never need to be an unnecessary choice to force people to make. Clearly, I think the assumption was that people hate the Tories so much that they would switch over to Labour. But as I said earlier, the vote share didn't go up virtually at all from 2019. It went up to about 1%. So it was a win by default, I think, in the end. And had the Tory vote not collapsed, it would have been a completely different story.
Yeah. Same. And what will 5 years of fuck all change do for the Labour vote? I'm interested to see what the vote share is next time round.
Yeah, exactly. I can't imagine them gaining support, unless how are they going to grow the economy? All the things they said they're going to do, I just don't see how they're going to do it with
Well,
within the parameters that they've set themselves, with the fiscal rules and all that sort of stuff.
Matt, I don't respect your negativity this soon after they've just been elected. It takes a long time to find the big button that makes the country get a bigger economy. And Rachel Reeves also has to deal with the fact that all of the computers that issue government bonds now have a little window on it that display a frowny face when you try and log into it. And it's a difficult situation for any chancellor.
That big button for economic growth apparently in the fucking Department of Health now, though.
Oh yeah,
oh, yeah.
No.
This is true.
It's also, not only do we have a situation where Labour are going to struggle to grow the economy and to basically do anything useful at all in England, but up in Scotland, where again it's the same thing. The Tory vote collapsed in England, and then the SNP vote collapsed up in Scotland. What's Scottish Labour going to do? Because that's an even more useless Labour.
Because fucking nothing.
Yeah, but how do you do nothing squared is my question. Because Scottish Labour can't do shit because they're Scottish and therefore they're kind of held off from Westminster. But Labour's already not planning on doing anything. I can't imagine.
As someone with crippling executive dysfunction, I know exactly how the Labour Party in Scotland will operate.
I think the other thing to take away from the SNP losing a bunch of seats is Turfree doesn't fucking win votes. Joanna Cherry fucking gone, just annihilated in that in her seat.
The only good Labour win in Scotland. Actually, really, the only good fucking Labour win, if I'm honest. But yeah.
On the note of Turfree, Rosie Duffield, I did check. Lowest vote ever, lowest vote count and vote share since she was elected in 2017.
You love to see it.
And there was the Women's Party or the Party of Women or something?
Oh yeah, got less votes.
Outfit.
Yeah, the Women's Party got less votes across the country than the Monster Raving Loony Party.
Sucks to suck.
It does suck to suck.
Kelly J. Keane got 100 or something.
I think it was something 147, and she came dead last in the seat she was in.
Yeah, deposit fucking wiped out there. Get fucked. Do we need to do the fucking Scotland bit just now and get out the fucking road?
Yeah. Let's peep through the hole in the
Hadrian's Wall.
Yeah.
Imagine, if you will, an announcer you can barely understand. He refers to it, but you're not quite sure what he said. He seems to be eating something, or perhaps he's a little drunk. It's remotely possible that he just said something about the ScotPol door.
Okay. The SNP's a fuck dying party. It was too broad a church. Now it's collapsed in on itself. It has no future whatsoever. The independence project is effectively dead through parliamentary means. If you want independence, you're going to need to get it outside of that. Read no more into that. I said nothing else. The Green Party is effectively a busted flush up here because of its association with the SNP, so they've fucked it. Good luck to them, pricks. And the Alba Party is just exactly the same. It's a bunch of turf dickheads that no one cares about or likes, so they're not going to gain any vote share either. Because the Tories are the Tories in Scotland, and the Lib Dems have no presence because Willie Rennie's stood down. The time of Willie Rennie could be now, but unfortunately he stood down as leader a couple of years back.
A political titan gone.
I know, yeah.
By political titan, I mean the podium he would obviously have used had he been the First Minister would have been massive.
Yes. So that leaves just Scottish Labour as the party of momentum, if you will. In a cruel fucking irony. So yeah, there's nothing else. No one is doing anything. Nothing is happening. Nothing will change. Nothing will change, especially because of the way the SNP have handled things over the last few years and effectively gifted executive power directly back into the hands of an unfriendly Westminster. So yeah, ScotPol, don't bother. It's over and we never have to talk about it again.
Well, I will say for the SNP, I was talking to a friend who's a former councillor who had to kind of work alongside a lot of SNP people in the past, and their kind of take is that, I mean, we can see why the SNP fucked it, because it's not just the case of independence failing, it's also that they've done fucking nothing in recent years. Like, when they first got in, they introduced a bunch of stuff which was cool and good, and then they just stopped doing shit.
Yeah, but they stopped doing shit because they got to the absolute limits of the broad church. Like, the right wouldn't let them do anything any further than the softest of left.
So, the thing is, like, the take they should have from this, like, the takeaway that should inform their behaviour is that, okay, maybe we need to actually do some things, and that'll actually galvanise support, and they'll go, well, independence might not be an option, but at least the SNP are doing some things, at least it's a good job. But my friend's take, and I think I'm convinced by this, is they're going to read the opposite from this. What's going to happen is they're going to look at Labour, and they're going to go, well, Labour's done pretty good okay just by tracking to the centre, not recognising that actually the reason Labour did okay is because, you know, people abandoned the SNP and they abandoned the Tories. It was nothing to do with their own pursued political course. So,
and that's only, obviously, the abandoning any party for Labour was only happening in Scotland. Across the rest of the UK, Labour at best stood still.
Yeah,
in terms of vote share.
And so what's likely to happen is we're likely to see not just the SNP continue to kind of dwindle, but actually get aggressively worse as they start pursuing policies that more align with that kind of centrist bullshit more explicitly, because to them, like, that's clearly a vote winner, right? Like, that's what they reckon the level of political analysis we're dealing with is, that's what the SNP, like, influential people are likely to think and do, which is going to be tragic and funny, but mostly tragic over the next little while. And other than that,
is the broad church about to get a lot less broad?
The big tent has caught fire, you know?
We are pissing on the tent to try and put out the big tent that is on fire, and it doesn't seem to be working, lads.
So what's the alternative then? Because the Greens in Scotland are very different, aren't they? I mean, I don't know what's
incredibly.
Yeah.
So what's the Greens in Scotland? They fucked it by going into coalition. They said it wasn't a coalition.
Learned nothing from the Lib Dems.
Yep, fuck off.
Learn nothing from other Green parties, never mind the Lib Dems. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like, there's been plenty of examples of Green parties doing exactly what the Scottish Greens just did, and it working out the same way or worse. Yep. So, they've got no excuse.
Is this a New Zealand mentioned moment?
It's actually closer to
Germany
home.
as well, isn't it?
Irish Greens are the perfect example of this. The pedigree's there, you know. But no, they've essentially, like David says, they've tied their fate to the SNP, because when you go into coalition as a minority party, then the net effect is the people who already support the majority party are not going to switch to you, because they're going to be like, oh, I like my majority party. They're magnanimous and they've, given a hand up to some good ideas here, right? And then when you split from them, they're going to be like, well, they're no longer aligned with my majority party, so I'm not going to, give them my vote. And meanwhile, anyone who hates majority party is not going to be convinced because they fucking hate majority party, and now you're seen as like collaborators with them. And everyone else, like, in the basic electoral calculus of strength, which runs through British politics, everyone goes, well, they didn't get there legitimately, did they? Which is not helped by Patrick Harvey and Lorna Slater having made up fucking ministerial positions.
Minister of State for vibes and fluffy toys.
Basically, yeah. So everyone's kind of looking at that and going, well, what did you actually achieve? And yeah, exactly. And like, I insist on this. There is nothing they achieved whilst in coalition government. And I'm sorry, you had ministers, it was coalition. There's nothing that the Scottish Greens achieved that couldn't have been achieved just by pressuring the SNP from the outside. Just by doing, like, at bare minimum, confidence and supply.
I was going to say, the DUP, like, fucking psychopaths that they are, credit where it's due, they did not go into coalition with the Tories.
No, they in fact got millions of literal fucking pounds of just saying, fuck you, do what we want, and it worked.
And this is the thing, it's like, there was no reason for them to do this. They did it, and then it imploded on them in the most hilarious way possible. Let's not pretend the SNP were being particularly incompetent when it imploded either, just a mess all around. No one came out of it looking good whatsoever. And
if you do the confidence and supply thing as well, and the government starts to become unpopular, you can basically pull the rug from under them, can't you? So then that's good for you. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a lot like the end of Burn After Reading.
Yes, it is. And like the whole point of being a Green Party, supposedly, that is of the left, right? And this applies to Green Party in Wales too, is your position where you actually have power is to outflank your opponent from the left on every issue. And the Scottish Greens, like, who's the enemy of the Scottish Green Party? I'm sorry, it's not the Tories. I mean, the Tories are everyone's enemy. Well, in practice, yes. But in reality, it's the SNP. The SNP are the enemy. The SNP are the people who you are trying to eat and whose voters you're trying to attract and win. And you don't get them by playing nice. You just don't. But that's not... I mean, this is the problem that runs through a lot of Green DNA and is buried deep in the Green Party in Wales as well, which is that it's not really about fighting, and it's not really a struggle for material resources, and it's not really about deciding, you know, who gets the biggest share in society or any of that. It's not really about all that stuff. And can't we all just get along, and isn't compromise the watchword of the day? There's like this real deep, fluffy, woolly liberal tendency that runs through it. And, you know, where it doesn't run through, it's capped off by people who are essentially career liberals who are in it for, well, what can I get for myself, essentially? What's in it for me? And this is the problem. They're like, until the leadership of the Scottish Green Party changes, they're hopeless. And not to be clear, not just like the leadership, it's also got to be like that entire political coalition that runs the SGP has to basically go, and a bunch of proper...
as
well, yeah, essentially. And a bunch of red-blooded socialists, at bare minimum, if not harder left, have to get in and like actually take hold of it. Otherwise, it's pretty useless. And the same thing, like, I'll be honest, same thing runs for Green Party in Wales, which, like, the Green Party in Wales is different in the sense that it's not as centralised as SGP, ironically, right now. But Green Party in Wales essentially is like a series of warring, states which have gradually been persuaded to move in a direction, most of them. And you can see the ones which are most successful because they came second in, a whole bunch of places just recently. And it remains to be seen what happens with the internal power struggles of JEPU, whether the Green Party in Wales actually, manage to shift a lot of the kind of liberal tendency and become more militant. But I'm not really holding my breath about it, frankly. Certainly not with the current leadership, but we'll see.
To go back to your original question, though, Matt, as far as electoral options, there are none. There's really nothing of effect that the left can get behind at the moment.
Interesting.
The Greens are the best of a bad option. That's
yeah. The electoral options in Scotland are, if you ask me no questions, I'll tell you no lies.
It's also, basically, electoral option in Scotland is the same as many parts of England, which is if your local MP/MSP/councillor, if you know they're good and vote for them, regardless of what party they're in, and that's pretty much it. Like, there's nothing substantive organised, which I think is going to make any waves in Scottish politics.
What, 2-3 years out from the next election here?
Mm-hmm.
So, there's going to be a long period where not a lot happens. The SNP flounders. If we're really lucky, there might be some kind of split in the SNP. The House will go to the worst cunts out, obviously. But, it'll be fucking Kate Forbes or something who ends up the leader of the actual, SNP. And with any luck, a left-wing rump party forms out of that. And maybe that's something that can be done. Maybe there's some sort of work to be done with the Greens on that front, but honestly, don't hold your breath. As much as I've been screaming about the left wing in England and Wales, but especially England, are horrifically fucking held captive by the Labour Party, where you're stay and fight contingent. It's so much worse in Scotland. So much of the left is held captive by the SNP.
It's not even held captive, genuinely. I'm sorry to my fellow Scots here who are listening to this. I do not rate the Scottish left's ability to politically organise. Politically, I mean for elections, not generally. There's lots of good mutual aid and stuff up here. But when it comes to actual political organisation in a really hard-nosed, disciplined way, it's pretty absent. And where it does kind of start to show its face, where there's things get moving, it's mired in historical factionalism and personalities in particular that makes it really unlikely that we're going to see anything particularly exciting take form anytime soon.
And
unlike,
I was gonna say on that note, should we close the ScotPol door?
Yes,
Yeah.
for the last time ever. Yes, please.
Lock it, please.
We can
free.
move on to something because it is our wont on this podcast. Shall we move on to something slightly more depressing?
Hi, this is Rob. I'm disturbing your delightful in-ear entertainment to tell you that we have a Patreon at patreon.com/praxiscast. You can go there for more episodes, our Discord, bonus clips, and much, much more. This is also me begging you for your money in exchange for goods and services. Thank you. Oh, very well then. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Get ourselves some snacks. Bye.
Then ScotPol.
Sure.
Good
Yeah,
luck.
Reform being on 5 seats. Mentioned it a little while ago, but they came in second in 98 seats.
See, that's the scary bit to me. 5 seats isn't the scary bit. That's the scary bit.
The addendum, I should say, to that is of which 89 were in Labour seats. So, is Keir Starmer going to head off Reform? Well, based on what happened in Clacton, so Nigel Farage.
Give head 2, maybe.
Nigel Farage is now the MP for Clacton, unfortunately. The Labour candidate came in third, who by all accounts was a pretty nice guy and like a rarity in politics in that he was, a young black man who had personality about him to want to do good stuff. Mm-hmm. Jovan Owosu Nepal, I hope I pronounced that right, but he was told by Labour HQ to abandon Clacton and to go to campaign in another constituency. Which is not a good sign if you actually don't want Reform to win seats in future.
Well, we need to ask why. Why was he asked to do that? It was because he was dangerously popular and would have potentially outshone Starmer, which is like such a low bar to fucking clear. I don't understand why he was singled out on that front. But, just absolutely fucking shocking. He did a tweet or something and it got more likes than Starmer.
I think it was more retweets,
of that, he wasn't allowed to be a fucking MP. Come on, fuck.
It's the Blairite thing, though. It's the Blairite thing of, hobble any talent that isn't firmly in your ideological tank.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the legacy of Blair, right? Just a bunch of, spineless parasites that were just leeching off the body politic to feather their own nests, and long may it continue, I suppose would be the mantra that they'd choose.
It's why they deselected Pfizer as well, because Pfizer would have been a problem for them had she been elected. Yeah, it's basically they wanted a PLP they could control. I'm surprised they didn't get rid of more of the SCG, but I think after what happened with Diane, that probably put them off. They probably thought we can't have a whole election campaign dominated by this stuff.
I think that the way that they fucked it on that, because they did fuck it extremely hard on how they were dealing with Diane Abbott, it's much less fucking effort and energy to just let them be MPs. What are they going to do? Write a letter to you? No one cares what they say. No one in the media gives them any fucking space, and they don't have any power in such a large majority, so what's the problem?
David, you've got to remember that 2015 and 2017 in particular were this cataclysmic event for the Labour right. This cannot come to pass ever again, and hence any sort of personality that is emerging that isn't one of the in crowd, the inner circle, if you like, is going to be relentlessly shat upon. This is all they know. This is all they know is stabbing each other stabbing the left in the back, and then when there's no left wingers to stab in the back, it's they turn the knives on themselves.
Eat hot chip and lie, yeah.
Do you think they sent that guy out to Clacton in the first place because they assumed it was a foregone conclusion for Farage?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, I suppose it's kind of hard to say, because by the sounds of it, the campaign, from what I can gather, the early steps of the campaign before he'd been unpersoned by Labour HQ was going okay. As far as I understand it, reasonably good responses and stuff, but. Yeah, just you were too popular on Twitter.com, sorry, X.com, I guess now.
Yeah, but my thought is, if they can't trust him to not be too big for his boots, why did they give him a seat in the first place? I can only assume they sent him out there because they just thought, well, that one's a loss. The ANC are going to be well behind Farage, and then when he goes out there and he starts proving them wrong, that's probably as good a reason as any to get rid of him.
Absolutely.
But also, did that author get his 10 grand back?
Oh, that's a good. I completely forgot to mention that. I don't know.
Actually, I think it was 7.5 grand in the end, wasn't it?
But I don't know if he got the money back. But in case anyone's not aware, I can't remember if we mentioned this on our pre-election episode or day of election episode, I guess. But someone made a sizable, either £10,000 or £7,500 donation.
It was going to be 10,000, but I think it ended up being 7.5.
There you go.
They gave the other 2.5 to Hope Not Hate or someone. But...
God. So I'm going to give the other 2.5 grand to this fucking organ of the Labour right. Cool. All right. But that 7,500 quid, as far as I know, is still pocketed, even though it was meant to be for
it was specifically for that guy's campaign,
for Jovan Owusu-Nepal.
Oh, it's probably someone's got a really nice garage remodel out of it, so don't worry about it.
Down the back of SETI.
Yeah, so regards to Diane Abbott, by the way, I just want to say, the whole reason they took a swing for her and not John McDonnell is because John McDonnell and the others were house cats, right, at this point. They're not doing anything. Diane's also a bit of a house cat, frankly, in terms of, trouble she can cause for Labour right. But the difference is that she's kind of a bit of a symbol of, the Jeremy Corbyn era. And I think, honestly,
they've also been gunning, or Luke Akehurst in particular has been gunning for Diane Abbott specifically since, 2005, I want to say? 2007?
Oh, yeah. I mean, to be honest, not making this a legend of Nuke the Luke or Luke the Nuke in particular.
Luke Nukem,
there are lots of people in the Labour PLP who are just incredibly racist, and so that's got to play a component of it as well. But I think the reason they persisted with it, even when it was obviously a plainly bad idea, is probably 40% spite and 60% here's a person who got media coverage which was alongside Corbyn, and we kicked out Corbyn, and now we just need to get rid of them as well. And we will prove to Capital, but also to anyone who's thinking otherwise, look, this kind of person is not welcome. I think that's kind of what it was about.
Here's what I heard as well, right? So when they were doing focus groups before the election, the over 65s and these Tory Labour marginals that they wanted to win over were all saying how much they hated Diane Abbott, right? And
all these
right. So when it all kicked off, because I think initially they wanted to get they wanted her to stand down and they wanted to offer her a peerage and all that sort of stuff to try and give her an off ramp because Luke Akehurst wanted that seat. Obviously didn't want to have to, commute from Durham, which is what he's having to do now. So he wanted the Hackney seat. Anyway, when it all kicked off, when they tried to, stop Diane standing, they decided to lean into it. And then the data started coming back saying, actually, the sort of line they were hearing was, if this is how he treats his own, how's he going to treat other people? And then they thought, actually, this is playing badly. So it was a real miscalculation. I think they thought they could lean into it initially. And then they realised, actually, it's doing us quite a lot of harm. And we can't afford another one of these, basically.
Yeah. No, it is completely in keeping with what we know they're like. Following a focus group to oust a monumental MP. I mean, say what you will about the SCG in general, but it would have been a symbolic defeat had she been ousted, or even if she'd end up taking a peerage, I think that would I just wouldn't have felt good. I don't think.
I don't think they'd have actually given her the peerage.
No.
I think they'd have promised it and then yoinked the football away.
Yeah, I'm genuinely quite mad at you, Matt, for telling me that story, because like that's opened up a world in which Luke Akehurst did stand in that seat and Diane Abbott stood as an independent and fucking ruined them personally.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's
would have been the funniest fucking outcome possible.
That exactly. Like that's the other thing now off the back of this election is the leadership will know that if they expel anyone for spurious reasons or any reason, they can always stand as an independent, and they've got a good chance of winning. Yeah. And that's the lesson here, right?
Even if they don't, like with Faiza Shaheen, like she didn't win, but she cost Labour the seat. Ian Duncan Smith stayed in.
Exactly.
I reckon if she stands again next time, I think she gets it.
I mean, like Jeremy Corbyn obviously has a bigger presence in the media landscape. Whatever. So going from a standing start to 26,000 votes, it's a much lower barrier of entry, if you like, than for Faiza Shaheen. I think the other thing to account for come the next election is like we're saying, like, the independents might well like really do some damage and stuff, but this election was about for the people who would have voted Tory otherwise and didn't. They didn't all flock to Labour, like we know that. Like the Tories were punished by people just not turning up. And in 5 years' time, after 5 years of shit Labour government, I don't think those people will all stay in the house again. So there is a solid chance that the next election is probably going to go fucking Tory just by default. I think it's a good... So this is sort of what I wanted to talk about next was... So, a Labour landslide. Not as big as Tony Blair's, I might add. On a record low percentage of the vote and the lowest turnout since 2001 at 60%, or just a hair under 60%. But also with the added bonus, if you like, of almost 450,000 people being denied a vote due to ID requirements, which was reported by the Telegraph. And Labour are saying that they're planning on keeping this. Voter ID shit. Yeah, of course they are. They can't understand why they actually won this election. They've got this like weird and warped idea around how that could have happened. So what they need to do is preserve that status quo forever because it's serving them well now.
Not only preserve that status quo, but extend the status quo because they're already talking about compulsory ID cards, aren't they? It took them about 3 or 4 days before the Blairite old guard came out of their crypts and started pushing for ID cards. Unbelievable.
I love how they're going to do it as well, because we're talking about introducing don't call them ID cards for everyone in education, essentially. And then clearly that's like the wedge in the door,
That's a national insurance number for kids, I think you'll find.
But such an important distinction to make,
I've actually got a small excerpt about the ID cards. There's been a bit of a flip-flop on this, actually. This is from the, I think it was the Independent. Labour Cabinet Minister has ruled out the introduction of digital ID cards after Tony Blair called for their use to help control migration. Business Secretary Jonathan Reynolds initially said the government would be looking at all sorts of things, and he did not want to preempt the work. But in an interview nearly 2 hours later, he said, "I can rule out ID cards for you. That's not something which is part of our plans." The idea was one of the former Prime Minister's flagship policies in Downing Street, but it was killed off after he lost power. Pushing the new government to embrace the scheme, he said, "We need a plan to control immigration. If we don't have rules, we get prejudices."
Do you think that like ancient lich cunt just has a warehouse full of laminators somewhere? He's just like desperate to offload.
Can someone? I should probably know the answer to this, so I'm going to make myself look silly. But can someone explain to me the logic of ID cards helping control immigration? Like, what's the
papers, please?
Yeah, but
it's just papers, please. It's like you need to present an ID card for anything and everything.
And then eventually shoot anyone that doesn't present an ID card.
Yeah, like it starts with present an ID card to claim your state services, which has the nice side effect of if people don't have their ID card on them, eventually that'll be they don't get their state services. So like if you turn up at A&E and they don't have your state ID card in your wallet, then, that's a problem. Or they will charge you for it, and then, you'll need to go through a Byzantine thing to kind of get it back. But eventually it morphs into the police will be able to ask to see your ID card as part of stop and search. And it allows you, on its own, it doesn't seem too bad until you realise that the side effect of this is creating like a parallel judicial system as well for dealing with migrants, which will lead to the situation where, like, look, if you're a young black guy in London and you get stopped by the police and don't have your ID card on you when they can ask for it, then they don't know who you are, so they put you into the undocumented migrants legal system. And this is like the end goal of it. This always has been, and if it sounds ridiculous, it's what they've got in America. So
yeah, I was going to say this is one of those things where if we were perhaps one of the West, maybe like France or Switzerland or something, and ID. I think Switzerland might actually have ID cards. We'd have to ask Rob. If they implemented something like this, it would be. I would feel a lot less worried and concerned about what the potential uses of this might be, considering the capriciousness of some of these fucking ministers.
It's also, it basically comes down to, first they introduced ID cards for convenience, then they make them compulsory, and then it's a crime if you don't have it. And just take your typical cop, right, who wants to fit someone up. They just, where's your ID card? Here it is, officer. I don't see any ID card, as he tears it up, sort of thing. It's just another tool.
Yeah.
It's based off of it's the lies of legitimate concerns. People come over here and do health tourism on the NHS and they don't pay. How much money are we fucking losing to that, really? I guarantee you it's less money than the fucking ID cards will cost. It's not going to be a saving.
It's negligible. Years ago, my partner came over and got some kind of, I can't remember what it was like a bacterial infection, some kind of needed antibiotics. And so knowing that, they're American, every step of the way, I was calling, NHS24 and saying, my partner's American, no, they'll need to pay, so how do I do that? And they said, tell them at the hospital desk, they'll know what to do. Hospital desk said, we're not so sure about that, tell the doctor, they'll know what to do. We told the doctor, and the doctor's like, I'm not fucking putting it through, it's you need to pay for this shit. No way, if they've got a problem with that, they can come after me. But you will need to pay for the pharmacy, you'll need to pay for the antibiotics. We get to the pharmacy, and they're like, it's on official NHS paper, so no payment required. It's no one actually in the system gives a shit about it because it's a non-issue.
Exactly.
None.
I had that when I was in Italy, actually. I didn't have my European health insurance card. They were like, no. Obviously, I said I thought I'd have to go for my actual insurer, and they're like, no. That's the thing. People actually don't apply those rules in those contexts because, we don't live in a police state, so no one's had.
Yeah. And
it's
a headache as well, right? Just easier to just be, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Which I do, which I respect. I respect that approach to take to one's job.
Yeah, it's more efficient. Get on with doing your job. Yeah.
Yeah, it's do you want to... Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, speaking of efficiency, should we talk a bit more about electoral efficiency?
What is it to say?
A little bit.
So, we are approaching hitherto unknown levels of cope from the Labour right and its supporters. One Rachel Cunliffe. Oh, sorry. She's quote tweeting Lewis Goodall. Oh, and by the way, voter efficiency is everything in the British system. If you master that, you win, and Labour did. So that's Lewis Goodall and Rachel Cunliffe. Exactly this. Labour winning this scale of majority with a relatively modest vote share is a sign of success, not of failure. We can have a conversation about voting reform, but to underplay that achievement is both bitter and ridiculous.
Oh, fuck off.
Wow.
And so,
they're
by
just
all
so...
accounts... Go on.
There are just so many variables that they couldn't control. So, the reform factor, the Tory implosion factor, the having been in government 14 years, what they'd presided over, the fact that all the conditions were there, the context was there for them to win and win very, very handsomely, and they scraped over the line. They nearly lost their health secretary, right? They lost John Ashworth.
They lost him, but they're giving him a plum job in a think tank, so it's not the last we've heard of that prick.
Well, these are things they just didn't plan for, and they didn't want. This was not part of the strategy at all. No. So I think that they've really, you're right. It is cope. It is trying to find a clever explanation for what was quite a disappointing result if you look at the expectations.
Yeah, I mean, like according to some polling, by all accounts, tactical voting benefited Labour hugely. You take away the tactical voting, and Labour could have plummeted as low as 29%.
Yeah,
and hence me saying earlier, do not tactical vote. Vote for the party that you want to win. And so I was going to talk about this earlier, but I'm going to talk about it now instead. So Twitter user @_SRTLW did a deep dive, because real journalism is, of course, the domain of the shitposter now, looking at some of the top seats that Labour lost in 2019, the top closest seats that Labour lost in 2019. In the total top 100 seats that Labour lost, less than half saw an increase in the total vote share, with a total overall loss of 52,000 votes.
Mm.
In the top 100 closest Labour held seats from 2019, 15 seats saw increases, with an overall net loss of 360,000 votes.
Yeah. So it was Tories like the Tory implosion, right? So it wasn't
exactly,
and that vote didn't even transfer to Labour in those target seats. So the idea that this was all a big clever plan, and even if you accept the logic and believed that might have been intentional, and that this is what they tried to do, and there was agency there with the strategists, and it didn't rely on the Tories imploding. Even if we take them at their word on that, the idea that Jeremy Corbyn, because he couldn't master voter efficiency, had nothing to say to the country is clearly nonsense, right? That's the real frustration for me.
To reiterate.
Yeah, sorry.
To reiterate, electoral efficiency is a fucking made-up bullshit term specifically for this election.
Yeah,
if only Jeremy Corbyn in 2017 had the forethought to think what shithead journalists in 2024 were going to say about Keir Starmer, then he would have known that he should have been talking about electoral efficiency for some fucking reason.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, let's be real, all of this shit is exactly the same as it always has been, which is coming up with a framing device that gives you a fig leaf to focus on the things you want to focus on and ignore the things you want to ignore because it's politically expedient and inconvenient, respectively. Like, it's not a real thing, it's just a thing to give the chattering classes to say when they get a little bit uncomfortable about questions of the Labour vote share. Like, that's it. It doesn't exist. It's not real.
Though. It's not just that. It's these people are fucking awful at winning. They hate to win.
They are such sore winners, rather.
Yeah, they are.
Worse losers. Like,
Yeah,
they cannot
if this
take...
was me, if I had just won on a fucking any platform whatsoever, and this was the result of it, I would simply say to people, shut the fuck up, we won. Like, that's all there is to it. You don't need to fucking go in and relitigate how you won. It doesn't matter. You won. Like, just fucking get on with your life.
I think that the condescension to anyone who goes, hey, isn't it kind of fucked up that Labour won so many seats and such a small vote share? Like, the condescension to those people is as a result of this inherent anxiety that this political outcome will have given them, because this is a majority that is extremely fragile. I mean, the phrase "sandcastle majority" I saw used, which I thought was very apt. It's very rare for incumbent governments to increase their vote share and their seats in subsequent elections. So what they are going to have to do is to inspire people to vote for something rather than just not voting at all, or not voting for reform, or not voting for the Tories, rather.
Yeah.
Womp womp.
It's also, I mean, it speaks to their general psychology as well, because with the Liberal, it's not enough to win, they also have to be right. It's not enough to have power, they also have to be liked, if not loved, you know?
Yeah.
That's what their psychology demands. What they demand from you is not just that you do what you're told, they also demand that you like it while doing it and love them for making you do it, because they know what's best for you. Like, that is the framing device in which they start. That's how, we go right back to, being mentioning capitalism. That's how they started. The rhetoric was all about merchants and the mercantile class know best how to use the assets of the world. They're the ones who are right and know how the world should be ordered. And that is carried through politically to today in the way they behave in victory.
It's the reason they get so fucking mad at the left is because they disagree. And, like, that's all there is to it. Fuck you for not agreeing with every single point I've been making. It's fine, okay, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, when you've got the reaction to the exit poll from certain Labour spokespeople was astonishing, because the first instinct that they had was to basically have a go at the left. It's like, you've just won an election, you're going to be in government. Fine, do the whole kind of cautious, it's only a poll thing, but don't then pivot into having a go at your predecessors and how much better you are than your predecessors. And then obviously they went on to get fewer votes than the predecessors. So obviously off the back of that, in order to actually have that kind of narrative about the left and be, doing that kind of punching left that they like to do, they have had to come up with something, and I think this is what they've latched onto, this voter efficiency thing. It's completely bizarre and attaches, as I say, far too much agency to the likes of Morgan McSweeney. They've lucked out, really. The context has meant that they've won, and what they should do now is go, right, let's try and win people over in government. Let's try and win people over. Let's understand the dynamics. And then what does Keir Starmer go and do this week? Basically says in a pulled clip interview doesn't care. Basically, he doesn't care about the Muslim vote. So that's kind of.
I mean, I've got the quote here. Many people voted Labour who have never voted Labour before. The days of self-entitlement and self-interest are over. Big words from that guy. Speaking of guys, I think what we'll do is we'll talk about some of the highlights of the new fucking cabinet. We're not going to go through all of them because we will be here forever. But at the top of my list, David, could you please play the other drop?
Yes.
Should ministers involved in the expenses scandal be allowed to go to the House of Lords?
Jackie Smith.
It's Jackie Smith, as Education Secretary, a disgraced lord and they couldn't even stick us with a disgraced MP who we could conceivably vote out.
Yeah.
We've also got Liz 4% Kendall in DWP, which is
terrifying
good news for many people, unfortunately.
Maybe she can do a computer course while she's there.
That's fucking right. We've also got Emily Thornberry was Shadow Attorney General, but she was given the boot, and they've gotten someone else in. But that's not what I found interesting. According to Owen Jones, the reason for this is because she briefed the press that Starmer complained that Shadow Cabinet members were calling him boring.
Wow.
Oh well.
Wow.
Sucks to fucking collaborate.
Yeah.
Why? So she's gone on TV, defended Starmer, basically calling for or justifying a genocide, and for nothing. I'm not saying that there's any justification for that, but that just
just for what?
Even on a level of personal gain, it was pointless.
Yeah, it's exactly for what exactly.
So we've also got, after quite a delay compared to all the other appointments, Annalise Dodds as Women and Equality Secretary,
Good. Huddle likes to meet with the LGB Alliance. Excellent.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't appease the ravening maw that is the online turfery. So it could, I suppose, be a worse appointment. But she is still an easily bullied member of the soft left. So
yeah, she'll do whatever fucking tough shit she's asked to do, and she'll make a sad face about it. Like that's the best we'll get there.
We've also got Angela Rayner as Secretary of State for Levelling Up, Housing and Communities of the United Kingdom. Although Levelling Up has been dropped because it turns out it was a completely horseshit bit of phraseology.
Yep.
So, yeah, that thing that was central to the Conservative Electoral Manifesto in 2019. Yeah, fuck it. Doesn't matter anymore. And at the bottom of my list, but by no means fucking least, Rachel Reeves, the the Chancellor rather.
I think you'll find it is the least because all she's been able to identify so far is zero.
Yeah. The no money left. I'm a serious economist. What is a printing press and what are government bonds? Chancellor.
Yeah.
So just a few highlights from her because I'm like this is stuff that I'm sure that Rob is gonna take a crowbar to in some subsequent episode or another. She's claimed that we're going to build 300,000 houses a year, and by we she means the private sector. No council houses. Fuck you. Never mind the fact that the last time we even built 300,000 houses in a year, a good chunk of that, something like just under half, was council housing. Yeah.
So I've just run the numbers on that, and that is, if I'm not mistaken, 1,000 houses every working day. Is that right? 1,000? Someone check that for me.
A hair under that, yeah.
It's fine though. Jess Phillips will personally test each of the doors.
What are they going to be made of? Are they going to be made of brick? I don't even know if there's enough bricks.
Imaginarium.
I'm not saying we shouldn't try, but it's a pretty ambitious target.
Yeah. I mean, but not only that. We can just increase defence spending to 2.5% GDP as a treat.
On the subject of how they're actually doing this, I think they know fine well they're not going to build any of the houses, and I think them abolishing levelling up kind of gives the game away. I suspect Labour know fine well that their castle's made of sand here, and ultimately they're out in the not too distant future. So I think they're just going to go hell for leather, and they've given up the pretext of levelling up because they're not going to get the North next time. I think they've decided, fuck it. This is time to lock in as much as we can in terms of PFI contracts, etc., and to just lay the groundwork in. And if we get in next time, great. But if not, the plan is to put as much in, dried contracting as they possibly can, so that, it's all in place and there's no rolling back. I think that's where they're going with this.
Well, there's no rolling back for cowards.
Yeah, and all of this coming to a podcast near you when we get more details and Rob decides to tear his hair out over it. Mm-hmm. And on that note, we've come here not to praise Starmer but to bury him. So, to that end, I think Jamie, it is time for a bit of comment or commentariat.
Right. And then there's his wife, Vicky Starmer. She's a minxy lady by any standards, even those that exist outside of politics. Trim, with an interesting face, and a natural, music festival-esque beauty that one doesn't tend to see in Tory wives. Is that comment or commentariat?
Commentariat, Caitlin Moran.
That is...
definitely Moran.
Is that Richard Littlejohn?
Nah, too complimentary.
No, that was Zoe Strimple in The Spectator.
Oh my!
I forgot there was more than one ball in the article.
A column titled "The Starmers Are Sexy."
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Weird.
In a perverse inversion of Martin Luther King's dream, in Starmer's Britain, people will be hired on the basis of the colour of their skin, not the content of their character or their ability to do the job. Is that comment or commentariat?
Jesus Christ, commentariat.
Yeah, commentariat.
That's got to be like the Express or Telegraph or something.
Commentariat, possibly Little John, actually.
That was Little John, yeah. Welcome to the nightmare. The hangover from hell starts here. It is day one of Starmer's socialist utopia, comrades.
Little John's the person who's got the gives no fucks about any racial sensitivity, so he'll happily wade in with Martin Luther King Jr., just no problem whatsoever.
I fucking wish I lived in the realm of his nightmares.
What, Florida?
No, that's the realm of all nightmares, not his nightmares.
His column was great though. It was like a full on fucking rage about how Britain's doomed and we'll all be fucking marched down to the fucking work camps to pick communist berries or some shit. And it's like, mate, you live in Miami. Do you know what I mean? Shut the fuck up.
Peter Hitchens seems to think that it's going to be, Starmer's much more left wing than he's letting on. He's actually a real communist, and it's going to be a complete disaster and all this sort of that. And I was like, oh, please be right about that. Honestly, I can't.
Personally, I think Clockboy can go fuck himself. They died for liberty. Yet how much of that is left to ordinary Britons? We no longer have freedom of speech. We can be cancelled or lose our jobs if we hold the wrong opinion. We cannot even say a woman is a woman or that marriage is between a man and a woman. Is that comment or commentary?
Sounds like
comment.
I'm going to say comment as well, but I
kind of need that to be comment.
That was Anne Widdecombe in the Express.
Oh.
Vote for Reform UK if you want your country back.
Wow.
Oh my Jesus. Really nailing the colours to the mast there.
Did she come out for Reform? Bloody hell. Didn't know that. Didn't even notice.
She's like their fucking chairwoman or something.
Oh, is she? I didn't even know.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure she's got a job with them, yeah. Well, if you call yourself the Conservative Party, but act like the love child of Labour and the Greens, don't be surprised when you lose support. The Tories have been moving steadily to the Liberal left since Maggie went. Is that a comment or commentary?
Oh, that's Oakshot, I think.
Yeah, commentariat.
Yeah, Matt sounded confident, so I'm going commentariat.
Commentariat, fuck it.
That was a comment in the Daily Mail.
Oh, no.
1970s all over again. Is that comment or commentariat?
Oh, come on.
Need a bit more meat on those bones.
Phoning it in. I think that's comment. Yeah, comment.
Yeah, fucking comment. Come on.
Comment. Fuck it.
Yeah, that was a comment in the Telegraph.
Brilliant.
Elsewhere in the cabinet, though, things hot up with the cheekbony, luscious-locked Angela Rayners and Rachel Reeveses of the world. Is that comment or commentariat?
Commentariat.
Why?
Commentariat.
Commentariat, hands down.
Yeah. But who is that?
That was Zoe Strimple again.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Again? So good we get it twice. Fuck you.
Oh, do you know what I mean? I could have gone for more because there was a paragraph in there about how Starmer is beefcake adjacent and looks like he could take someone in a fight. Especially he'd be especially dangerous if he got furious.
The only person I've ever heard of Keir Starmer taking in a fight is the delivery driver.
That wasn't a fair fight. That was a sucker drive.
But yeah, imagine thinking, oh yeah, he'd be dangerous if he got furious. It's like, we've seen him furious. He just gets wetter.
Yeah.
He's not a big guy. He's not his stature's not very big. And it's been kind of masked.
He's got the energy of guy who only fights in kebab shops.
I don't see him as a kind of guy who ever sets foot in a kebab shop, to be honest.
Yeah, but I mean, at first glance, he wouldn't look like a guy who probably sinks at least fucking 8 pints in a night out, but...
Anyway, that's your whack.
Well,
excellent.
Have we all enjoyed ourselves?
No.
Yeah.
It's been great. Thank you very much. Great chat.
Yeah. No, thanks for joining us, Matt. It's been
always good
to
have you on,
to you.
Thanks very much. Till next time.
Anything to plug?
Yeah, I was going to say, is there anything you'd like to plug?
I'll do my usual thing. If you are addicted to gambling, or you know someone who is, then please have a look at talkbandstop.com. and you can get my software Gamban free through there, and that blocks access to gambling websites and apps.
Great stuff.
Excellent. Right, well, thank you, and thank you for listening, everyone. Extra episodes. I promised this on the stream, so technically there's no record of it, and I could get away with not saying it again, but I'm gonna, because I'm a fucking fool. We will go up to 2 bonus episodes behind the paywall at patreon.com/praxiscast, either this month or next month. But we will be going up to 2, so have fun
I think
with that.
On a previous episode, I promised 2 this month, so...
Well,
I've just inadvertently done it again there. So
well, fuck. That's this month. Fuck.
Well,
then.
that's
Great.
checkmate. Yeah.
So you'll get 2 then. Me saying panically looking at the fucking calendar.
Can't watch them try and wriggle out of this one.
So patreon.com/praxiscast, £5 a month will get you that. You can give us 10 or you can even give us 25, but it'll all get you the same shit. It also gets you access to the Discord. Streams are available. It is, yeah. Streams available twitch.tv/praxiscast, generally on Thursdays from about 7:30ish. And you can get merch available at praxiscast.tmail.com. I don't think we have anything left to say, so I'll hand over to...
Actually, real quick before you do, I do actually have something to plug for once. Yeah, sorry, David. So yeah, for people who know, I write. That's what I do for my day job. And just recently, like today, I've now started a little thing to share some of the writing, which either I can't get published or I don't want to get published. I don't want to sell it. So if you're interested, we'll stick it in the show notes. Enjoy. It's free. That's it.
There you go.
Okay, and I'll hand over to friend of the show, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, to lead us out. Bye.
Bye.
see ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Debout les damnés de la terre, debout les